Hello and welcome to Young Blossom 25 Future Leaders Revealed. I'm Inga, and with me is my very handsome co-host, Vaios Kopustamus. And today we are joined by Marina Perantonaki, who is a senior manager of the Office of Career Services at DERI, the American College of Greece. She's a seasoned HR and career development professional with more than 20 years of experience in managing and developing different people at different stages in their career. Marina has worked across executive search, corporate HR, and higher education. And now, Marina, you're leading career and employability strategy for students and alumni in an international academic environment. Marina, very, very well welcome to the podcast.
Inga and Vaios, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to have this discussion. Well, it's more than 20 years of experience, and I think in everyone's life, this is a journey. I mean, this is what you don't read within the CV, all the decisions and weighting out the plus and the cons and reflecting on what your next step will be, connecting with people, learning from the previous experience and taking you to the next experience. So I think that there is a lot of feeling and connection also engaged. Let's not forget that work is a great part of our lives. So, the better thing would be to be something that you enjoy, that it is connected with who you are, that is, an authentic actually experience. So
yeah. And you have two kids, Marina, right? Who are in Gen Z age, I believe.
Yes. I have two kids, a boy and a girl of 18 and 16.
Right.
I'm really happy. I mean, this is, a great chapter of my life, also connected with my personal development.
It's lovely to have you, and we're going to talk about that today. Given not only your work background, but given that you also have two kids from that specific generation, we emphasize a lot on in this podcast. So we want to hear a bit more of your perspective on that generation. That's what it is about today, and we're curious to hear based on your personal experience, but also your obviously professional experience. And we will want to double click a lot more today is what is your perception, experience, observation on this generation's leadership aspiration, how they approach learning and development, how do they, what expectation do they have to work in general? How do they make choices? It feels like it's rather hard for them to make choices these days because the choices are endless. And how do they start planning? How difficult or how easy is it for them to plan out their career, I guess, or whatever they want to do in the future? So these are the few topics that we wanna dive into today. And I always forget to give Vaios the opportunity to say hello.
Yes, hello.
Hi, Vaios. Hello.
So to kick it off
Yes.
a little bit and to start the discussion, Marina, I always, Inga produces always a great script for us, but we never keep it. This is true. We're not gonna make an exception today.
Okay.
In that sense, I was trying to reflect a little bit, knowing you for some years, and I think you are the one person that is connected to what we call university careers campus in Greece. If you think of one person in Greece, that would be you. And I'm saying this because throughout my years recruiting in Greece, before stepping out of the country, I have never heard anyone of the student community, and it was not only about students from the American College of Greece, but also from other universities, not talking highly about you, about your work, about the love and commitment you have in what you do. So I would like just to understand, and you telling us a little bit more about the work you're doing at the American College of Greece, how you help students better prepare to enter the workforce and become an active part of the society.
Well, it is quite a purposeful role and position, and it is the third period of my life. I mean, there is a reason why I'm here. I started with HR consulting when I was in my 20s, early 20s, meeting with people who were then in their 30s and 40s and 50s. Then the next stage in my 30s, I was in in-house corporate again, dealing with many different generations. And then this third period of my life has to do with actually preparing young people for the work life. So having worked with employers and seen and felt their challenges into, recruiting people, selecting talent, building talent. Now, in this latest stage in my life, I'm working a lot with young people who are just trying to figure out how they will fit this environment, how they can enter the work environment. So working in career services is actually, the purpose is bridging the gap between education and employability, helping students find themselves, first of all. I mean, that's the first stage. I mean, we're trying to help them, to support them in deciding, because they're making their own decisions. So supporting them in understanding themselves better, selecting what they're going to study, because in the US system, you have the option of taking some general education courses, building on the soft skills, critical thinking, presentation, exploring different areas, academic areas first. So understanding where you can find a good match for you personally, and then choosing what your major will be. So there is a lot of career counseling right in the beginning of our contact with the students when they're aged 17 or 18. So we begin from there, helping them build the method of understanding who they are, what their strengths are, what their values are, what their priorities are, because this will help them make decisions throughout their lives. Then supporting them in building their personal branding, so expressing and communicating their uniqueness, proposing activities that they will help them explore who they are and what type of roles or industries and type of work environments they will be seeking when they complete their studies. And also offering them experiences so that they can have a better understanding of what's a good match for them. So managing the internship program, they can have more than one internships, explore different roles regardless what they're studying. We are offering opportunities to work within the college part-time. So there's the work-study program. There's a lot of volunteering. There are a lot of clubs, societies, organizations, so that they can take initiatives. They can build their own clubs. They can invite people from the market to discuss and present about a specific topic they're interested in. So it is a community and an environment that actually encourages initiative, exploration, and our office is central into preparing actually the students to have a successful and tranquil, I would say, transition into the job market, reduce their stress, having step by step figured out who they are and what their first step would like to be. Because, I mean, going back to what Inga said about this generation, I think they're very much stressed about having that they have to figure out what their life plan is going to be. They're really stressed about making their first decision. I mean, it's a first decision. You can change it. There is so many things you can do to change a first decision. You're not defined on, what you have done when you're 18 or 22. I think that, people who have the experience in looking back, you see that you can change things. And especially in this era, everything is changing. There is continual learning. Things are changing with AI. So we are learning. We're right from the scratch. So it is an opportunity also for us. Imagine for them. Yes. So this is what career services is doing.
A lot of things.
Yes.
And I'm sure people listening outside of the space would really, question themselves, hearing all these kind of things that you do. Marina, a second question before I pass on to my lovely host Inga. I'm sure you have done a lot of these things also in the beginning. when you started being in the career services community, how much did you need to adjust, to change, based also on the fact that a new generation came to you in order to study, to learn, to become part of the university setting? How much did you need to change throughout the years and evolve?
First of all, because I was coming from corporate HR, I had to be trained myself. So I did career counseling with NBCC. I did NLP so that I can listen and connect. I was always a listener. I'm not much of a speaker. And listening is good because you follow the vibe of the person in front of you, but you also need to channel them and help them figuring out what they want to do. So training and daily exposure with different generations helps out. I mean, the work study program is excellent. We have 5 student assistants who are part-time employees, and they're in their office right next to us, and there is daily collaboration. So I think that you are naturally adjusted. You can see the changes. I mean, I've seen a lot of change after COVID. So in these years, I have seen a change in the priorities and the way that students are functioning. I think that COVID also has had a great impact because these students, while they were in high school, they were a bit disconnected. So there is an effort to bring in more social skills, help them reconnect. And I think that now in the last year, we have gone back to normal. But these few years in between, I think that they were feeling awkward. So we had to, to create events and opportunities for them to connect in person. But I think that things are getting smoother right now.
Thank
I
you.
think COVID had a bit of an impact on all of us, how we, reshaped our priorities and rethought a bit different approaches and balances from personal to professional lives, because it highlighted quite a few things. And I think the one thing that we keep talking about is how many days should you be in the office, which is irrelevant, but really you don't go to the office for the sake of it. It's for connection. And funny enough, I read a study that it's actually the young generation who prefers to be in the office, and they complain the least about that. What they complain about, if you make it mandatory for specific days rather than keeping it flexible. And thinking back, Bios will still remember it, when we in Greece, well, PepsiCo in general released a statement that we need to be back in the office 3 to 4 days. And everybody was freaking out about it. The young people were the ones in the office. The rest was nowhere to be seen, which is very, very interesting observation. And then I read the study. I'm like, yeah, that resonates well with me. Marina, I want to double click a bit. You mentioned that you are organizing activities to help explore that young generation, young student, who they are. What does that look like? How can we imagine that? How do you help them find themselves or discover themselves?
Well, first thing has to do with counseling and self-awareness tests. So there is a one-on-one counseling process. So this is one activity that we are offering and service. And then when it comes to activities that bring them in touch with the job market, we are organizing site visits so that they can go into the organizations and see how it looks like to work there. We usually have presentations from different departments and people talking about their experiences working within the company, bringing in also younger employees, many times interns that are currently in that company. We have a tour of their premises so that they have a good feeling of how it is to work there, and usually also have a networking opportunity so they can also have direct interviews with HR people and get feedback and open up opportunities for them. So one thing is site visits. We're organizing also networking events on campus. So we are hosting a specific company or a specific industry, and they also present themselves. But it's not only presentations. We also have games when they're on campus, small case studies that they can work on. So we're trying to have things interactive. And it has to do with specialization. I mean, if it's for our cyber security, they even do some coding and on the spot. So we're trying to keep things interactive. Then you have meet the experts, so single people going into the classes, professionals to present and discuss on their role and expertise and how they got there and how it is to work in this area. I mean, we bring in also employers within meetings that have to do academic meetings that have to do with building the programs. Mm-hmm. Show employability in what the job market is looking for. It is embedded within the academic. It goes as deep as the academic. Students can have case studies and projects also for their courses. There is an academic symposium being organized where they can present their projects, and it is open, and companies can come and have a chat with them, so they can explain to a recruiter or a line manager, what they have done and the research. They're engaged in research. The ICG is really strong in research. The work study program, it's a great exposure because we're a large organization with more than 1,000 employees in different departments, so they can have the chance to work in different departments, from our IRM department, HR, our office, student affairs. So there are a lot of experiences, and they're also organizing themselves and hosting large events like Business Week. All the business societies, they decide on a subject and they invite people from the job market to discuss this specific subject from different perspectives, from shipping, tourism, marketing, international business. So this is organized each year. And of course, we are open to exploring, and things are changing, and all of these programs and opportunities have been developed step by step. And each year we're trying to figure out new ways to bring them in touch with their work life.
It is fascinating, I have to say, because I couldn't stop thinking what I was doing for orientation purposes, which was not orientation purposes really. It was to get some extra pocket money that was not related to any study, anything I want to do in the future, like working at McDonald's. Who hasn't worked at McDonald's, right? Or dropping newspapers, because I was a runner. So in the morning, 5 o'clock, I was dropping newspapers on people's wall, because it coincided with my running. So I was combining it. Did it teach me something back then? I thought, well, it gives me coins. Today, probably some. Was it helpful in orientation? Probably not. So all the programs you're doing are quite, it's such a different level of, and I guess it's required because I was talking to somebody who is just about to enter a master, and she was saying it's so hard to make a decision what to do, because there's so many perspectives that you have to take into consideration. Whatever I decide to, will it still be relevant tomorrow? Or will it be replaced by AI? What is my employability after that? How many companies will actually look for it, irrespective of AI? Is the trend going there? And there's so much information available on, trends, and depending on the source you're looking at, it's going to tell you the opposite. It must be really hard for this generation that is in education now and exiting education slowly to get a good sense of orientation, aside from the things I like. So am I an artist, or am I rather an engineer, which is just to cite something very different. But aside from that, I guess it's really hard for them to get for themselves orientation. So all the programs you are providing, I guess, is giving them different ways of different insights into the space. How are they, because it's a lot what you're offering as well, are they overwhelmed at times? Is that the feedback that you get, that it's too much, I don't know where to start and where to, because there is also such a thing as too many things that I could explore and that could help. And it's a fear of missing out, that I did go to something or I didn't do something that could have been helpful. What's the feedback?
Well, we have created a plan for them as an office. So we have a career readiness plan proposing steps that they can take on their first year, second year, third year. So we are organizing this. And this is something that I think the new generation wants. Even in work environments, they want the structure, they want, the clarity. That's why they definitely want an orientation when they go into a company. We've always had an orientation week at college. I remember that even way back when I was at college. So this is important because you have an orientation week, you have the different clubs and societies creating excitement so they can select, which one to join according to their interests. So we have orientation leaders or students within the first semester being with them and helping them figuring things out. Figuring out where their classes are. So it starts really early by having an orientation process. And now an orientation course has also been created so that they can also, with credit, so that they can have a recording explaining what different offices are doing. And yeah, so it is important to provide some structure and make things easier for them. It is important to have also human contact. And I think that this is where students are benefiting from having a formal and structured education. It's not only what you're learning. Like, okay, you can learn some things remotely, but the connection with the interaction with others, how they're dealing with their stress, how they're making their decisions. You need to have one-on-one human connection and see that you are not alone making these decisions. So I think that the main thing that we are offering is this one-on-one counseling for them being able to knock on a door and ask for help. And that's why there are many different offices. There are study abroad offices if they want to study abroad. There is student assistance with tutors, peer tutoring. So there are many different academic advising and choosing their courses. So there is a lot of support so that they can gradually learn how to make their decisions. So there is coaching, if you see it that way. It is important to have some human support and coaching in making your decisions. Yes, so in general, also the education doesn't have to do, especially at this age when we are dealing with AI, it doesn't have to do about hard skills and knowing your subjects. It has to do with human connection and soft skills and being able to reflect and make your decisions and support your choices and having resilience. So it has to do with building all of these things and, going back to being a mother or being, young people have to have a supporting environment around them, friends and family. And
Yeah, I think,
I mean, to help them build the skills because they will need to, to deal with issues and problems. And they need to figure out, how they, each one of them personally are going to deal with the issues
yes.
that they will be arising.
Yeah. I think probably the structure becomes more important, and the framework for them to operate in becomes more important in times where choices are overwhelming. A lot of choices are are present in the first place, and just to give them some, guidance along the way that they can navigate and narrow the space down. So framework and structure, I think, is extremely important. I agree with you, and I see that with my daughter, where sometimes she comes and is like, "Oh, how am I gonna do this?" And if I'm gonna do, am I gonna do this or this? I'm like, "Well, how do you think about it?" She's like, "Let me ask ChatGPT." I'm like, "Well, no, don't ask ChatGPT. Like, how do you think about it?" Said, well, why do you make me think? So there is this notion of easily accessible resources for them to take shortcuts in thinking and processing. I think that's really, really important by having a framework that they can, learn how to think and process things and reflect on things equally. So I think that structural component, I was probably underestimating it. And whatever we heard from that generation during our time in the podcast, this is probably nailing it down as to what could really, really help them. And I think companies reflecting on how companies are structured, while they give a lot of structure, the structure is relatively rigid, and which is might be a bad thing, but doesn't have to be a bad thing. Where it gets really out of sync with how this generation is processing things is on the longevity. So all the processes within corporate are set up. We do this, and then 6 months later we check in. We do this, and then 6 months later we check in. This 6 months for that generation is like an eternity, is like a life cycle or something. They are a lot more triggered, and the way they're processing things is in a lot shorter period of time. I think that's the biggest reflection for me as to if there is one thing companies need to rethink is how those cycles can be redesigned. It's okay to have a every 6 months check in, but what happens in between? That it is not solely reliant on the line manager who is, catering for Marina's need more interaction and more reflection in between. And, Inga's approach saying, well, in 6 months, see you there. We're going to collect
Yes.
and then we're going to reflect. So that's the other thing that I want to pivot a little bit into leadership. So we had a great conversation. Also, somebody from academia, and she's teaching a leadership class, and she's asking her students always at the beginning of the class who sees themselves as the leader, and nearly no hand goes up. And then she's asked a follow-up question saying, "Who would like to become a leader?" And then a couple of hands go up, but really not an overwhelming majority. And when digging deeper as to why do you not see yourself as a leader, or why do you not want to become a leader, there seems to be stigmatization of leadership that has evolved over time that goes to, it's not very aspirational to become a leader because what it associates with is big organizations, leading many people, having responsibility for these people without having a lot of work, by the way, without having a very obvious rewards. And that's very linked to how corporate life created the perception, because I don't think it is everywhere this way, but perception is reality, as we know. How do you experience, if at all, leadership approach, leadership perception from the students that you see on campus?
First of all, we have an institution, a tradition, let's say, within the school, which is called the Student Awards, where we're actually celebrating the achievement of our students and awarding them for their contribution within the community. Now, within these awards, there is the Emerging Leader Award, and the criteria that have been set has to do with giving back to the community and how they contribute back. So, and students, the student community is actually proposing which students are to be included, considered as candidates for the awards. And they're allowed to give recommendations and write down the recommendation of why they are proposing their peers to be awarded as leaders. And being within the committee that's awarding and assessing the students, usually what I see from their peers is that they're actually evaluating highly students who are supportive. I mean, you will see that I am awarding Inga because she helped me out when I had an issue, and she was there and she coordinated everything. And so I think that leadership has to be caring, creating an environment and a team that works well together, supporting one another. So at this early stage, you see that this is what, even at this stage where they're in college, that these are the things that they are appreciating. So I think that this is how they consider it, leadership. Someone that is open, he's transparent, they will be supportive, they will support their development, that they're people that they can trust. Actually, leadership is trust. it's building trust. And I think that this is at every level and in all generations. Everything is based on trust. Do I trust this person? They say that we have these goals. I mean, are they just? Are they transparent? Is it a liberty that's going to benefit me as well? Individually. Are they creating an environment where I can grow, I can develop? Do they see me? Do they see
Yeah.
my work? So I think that this is the basics of leadership. And I do agree, that it is a hard title. Are you a leader? I mean, there are different types of leaders. And usually, a bit harsh leaders are more projected. But, if you go back and ask someone truthfully, if they're considering someone a manager or a leader,
Yeah, I
when
think at this stage in their lives, they probably don't make necessarily the differentiation. I think a lot of the things are defined by what they see role models for good or bad. And I think at the moment, the role models we have, not only in the corporate world, but also in the political world, is a bit problematic. Make political statements here, but I see it as problematic, um, because all of those are, leaders that are demonstrating certain traits and certain behaviors that are, you know, probably not very aspirational for the generation that is now growing up. For us, it's probably very different because we have a lot more experience. We can put many more filters onto things we see versus them who come in and their filters are not developed yet to such an extent, right? So their filters are very human. What a great thing. Based on, I would like to be treated the way I'm treating people, unless I'm a psychopath or maybe not. But so that's one thing. And then the other thing, I was at the webinar this week. It was last week, about differences in generation. And what it basically concluded, and it was a research, behavior research study across generation. What it's basically concluded, there are a lot less differences between a lot less difference between generations, and the differences are a lot more profound within the generation. So Gen Z may be a lot more like a Gen X, and I can see actually many parallels, with that generation. How I was when I was their age, and how things that are important to them now were probably not as important to me when I was back then, but all the preconceptions. Oh, they're lazy. They have their attention span is low. They don't want to learn. Like all that kind of things. I think they exist for every young generation that comes in. I think what the difference and why Gen Z gets so much attention at this point is because within this generation there is a lot of polarization, because there are some people that take it to a really such a harsh extreme when it comes to, authenticity and purpose and work-life balance and all those things. And it starts to feel that, because it's always the loudest that get the attention, right? And make it create the perception for a group of people, that it starts to feel that, okay, this is really different and this is really out of, out out of how it should be, because otherwise we're all doomed. The economy will not grow if we're all caring only about ourselves. But within that generation, I think the polarization is quite substantial. Do you see that?
not that much, I would say.
Interesting.
I think that this has happened throughout the generations. We're just experiencing and we're the ones, giving the feedback. Most probably
But
previous
within,
generations had the same thing.
yes,
I mean, I understand there is a need. I mean, with technology and everything, things are getting hard. But, these are people who are developing and growing. So if you have an environment that can provide, a general context, and you take the time to discuss, even people who are in the limits, they can get some input. So yes, they're different. I think we will make it. I mean, they're approaching their 30s. I mean, they're calming down slowly. I think that also there is, it's a large group. They're growing as well. And from my experience, I mean, yes, you see people, you see excellent young people. I mean, who deliver, who they're there, who, do things fast. Okay, you have some people who are not there yet, who are more revolutionary, let's say, or whatever. But I think, you need to devote a bit of time because they're growing, they're developing. And I don't know, I have no fear about we'll adapt, we'll adjust. And, we are also affecting each other. I mean, I feel like I'm getting a lot from them. I'm learning, reprioritizing, learning from, how things are evolving. You just need I think usually it's an issue of miscommunication. So you need to connect so that you open channel of communication, and you need to show them that you are also not an alien of another age. That you have. I mean, it is good to pass on some wisdom and also learn. And as long as there is such a respect and interaction, and respect, I know it's a harsh word, but I mean, if there is an understanding, let's say, things are made easier. And if there are also good intentions, wanting to support other people to develop. Yeah. So I have no fear about how they will evolve. They will adjust, they will have more priorities as they grow, and then the next generation will come and they will change things and we will adjust. And okay, I know, we are experiencing things like, I went into an internship and I'm dropping out, and they come freaked out, I'm dropping out. This does not happen often. But, when you sit down with them and you need to, make them reflect, that's the skill, to reflect and consider a bit more long term, and and train them on how they can give feedback, because that's the thing, because there has been this gap in communication, social contact. They are also in fear of saying, oh, I'm not happy where I am, or I have trouble. So the easy way out is not, it's not negotiating, it's dropping out. So maybe, if you tell them, if you have any issue, prepare them that they might be issues, prepare them that, the company might not be 100% organized. There needs to be communication to take down the fast-paced that all of us are having, both sides, if we are on different sides, let's say.
Marina, you mentioned a couple of times, if I recall correctly, that your students, this generation, is looking for a support system in order to be able to build their skill set, to become productive, to enter the workforces. Now, reflect a little bit, on how things are at now. Living in a society that is more or less, for sure, more individualistic compared to what we're used to, like 20, 25 years ago when I entered first time the workforce. Do you think we need to change something from a leadership perspective? Make leadership more caring, make leadership less outdated, as one of our guests in our first episodes used to say, in order for the young people to be able to build better their skill set and take out their full potential. Because at the end of the day, what I believe is mandatory for all of us is to at least have the chance to explore our full potential, whatever this is.
Yes, I also think that there needs to be an adjustment. You can not, of course, change and go into the other side and have it as a playground. Okay, then a balance needs to be established. And this is something that we're establishing daily. Okay, there need to be trade-offs. So, okay, we understand that, when you're working in corporate, you're also in a hurry, and middle managements, they're really pressured. So they need to get that feeling. They're going to experience that going into the work environment. So there needs to be a balance, establishing some structures, dedicating some people, as an HR, to deal with such issues, to deal with culture, to deal with organizing activities for connection. So I think that if someone dedicated has been assigned on different levels to touch base with young people, I think that this will help out a lot.
Yeah, I think there are some companies that are doing a really, really good job in doing exactly what you're saying. As with everything, listening and creating an understanding, not listening to respond, but listening to create an understanding and compassion listening, we would have a lot more problems in the world to start with. And obviously, we would have a better understanding for each other. And that goes both ways. Because we're obviously advocating for that generation in this podcast, but I want to make sure that it's not only us listening to them, it's also them listening to us, and kind of we need to meet each other halfway.
Indeed.
So yeah, I can't believe we're already almost an hour into the conversation. Marina, do you have any questions for us before I move us to the next point? Because we get feedback as well that, we are hammering guests with questions, but then we don't.
No, I'm enjoying the discussion, so go ahead.
Bios, if nothing else from your side, I'm gonna move to the lightning round. Brilliant. Marina, lightning round is I'm gonna ask fast-paced questions, and don't overthink it, just throw an answer at me. Your most used chat channel, how do you communicate with people if not on the phone?
MS Teams.
Teams. Social media you spend the most time on?
Instagram.
You get your music from?
My CDs. It's my personal time. I take out my CDs.
Oh my God, we did not have that. What is, where do you get your podcasts from?
I'm stuck. Let me check. Spotify.
What is your favorite AI tool?
ChatGPT. The simplest, but it's good.
Physical books or audiobooks?
Physical and on the beach.
Very nice.
Yes. I mean, that's vacation and time off for me.
What is the one skill you recommend Gen Z to learn?
Curiosity and critical thinking. Sorry, that's two.
What is the one skill you would our generation recommend to learn?
Listening.
A famous person you would like to meet, if any?
I don't feel like I want to meet someone who is famous. I enjoy meeting people every day.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yes.
That's it, Marina. It was so lovely to have you. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, your perspective, giving us some food for thought as well, which is also always very, very welcome. And we hope you enjoyed the conversation as well.
I did. And thank you so much. I'm honored by the invitation. Thank you.
Thank you, Marina. It has been fantastic having you on Young Blossom 25. As always, we are everywhere, so find us on all channels, including YouTube. I don't know if it's me, but I just want to wish a great summer to everyone. Although we have more recordings to do, we think one more before we go off to our summer vacations. Until next time, see you.
See you.
Bye.